When we think of shipping containers, they don't generally elicit feelings of warmth and coziness and home. Yet today, we're about to discover an incredible container house that has been transformed into a beautiful and creative tiny house, all for an unbelievable budget. Hey Cathy, how are you?
Hi Bryce, nice to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you. G'day Paul, how you doing mate?
Great Bryce, thank you.
It is a pleasure to meet you both, and this is an amazing spot you've got here, isn't it?
It is. It's a working sugarcane farm, and I was quite lucky to be able to come and stay here. So yeah, beautiful outlook.
It certainly is. Got some lovely views here.
Yeah, and it's generally quite quiet. We're surrounded by bush, and it's also close to major cities as well.
And a 10-second walk to work.
Yes.
That's your workshop there, is it?
It is, yeah. It's also transportable as well, so I thought I'd just do everything transportable.
Fair enough too, and you certainly cannot complain about that commute.
No, that's right, yeah.
No.
That doesn't mean I get up later. I still get up early and get straight into it.
And it's quite an industrial spot, but the way that you've landscaped around the home is really beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's the beauty about tiny houses. You can literally create a little, ecosystem around them and create an environment which can make it feel quite homely.
Yeah, you're growing a lot here, aren't you?
I'm a pastry chef by trade, so I like to sort of, be able to pick some things out of the garden, cook with them, and the flavour of food that's grown from your own garden with good compost is really quite a great thing.
Can't beat it.
No.
So these are all wicking beds, are they?
Yeah, so they're all Australian-made recycled plastic wickings that holds the water under the garden bed. So it's water in the garden better than I could do it with a hose.
You've got less evaporation because it's wicking from underneath, so it saves, 70-80% of water?
Yeah,
is that what they say?
Correct, yeah.
Brilliant. And this house just looks fantastic. Looking at it, you'd think it was a tiny house, but this is actually a shipping container, isn't it?
It is. It is a shipping container.
So what size is it?
It's a high cube, so it's 2.6 high by 6 metres long.
So a modified 20-foot container.
Yeah.
And it looks like you've extended the height quite a bit on this one.
That's right, yeah. So the container, I had it on the property and it was starting to rust on the roof. So I decided, look, I'll just cut the roof off and go up. So I went up 900 from the top, yeah.
And normally when you look at shipping container homes, they look like a shipping container, but this is anything but. You've clad the whole exterior of the home.
That absolutely. I clad it on the outside just so the sun wasn't hitting the side of the steel to keep it cool.
So you were able to insulate it external to the container, or did you do the insulation on the inside?
So the insulation's on the inside, but this sheeting that I've cladded it with is a insulated sheeting.
So it's insulated inside and outside, so you've got this perfect temperature. And that's so important with containers, getting the insulation right.
Absolutely, because thermal bridging in the steel can be such a problem. And in this climate, again, having double insulation, keeping that hot sun out of the home, essential.
That's right, absolutely.
And you've used such beautiful timber as well. Like this servery here is just exquisite.
Thanks, yeah, that's actually Australian ironbark, and it's quite a rare type of ironbark. It's got bird's eye through it.
It just adds so much texture and character, doesn't it?
It does, it's quite unique. And, I thought, well, if I'm going to go for a tiny house, I'm going to make it a unique one. It's been interesting working within the limitations of a tiny house, but to capture the essence of an architectural home or an unusual shaped roof or a raked roof. So yeah, it really gets you pushing the boundaries of what's possible and what's not.
And it's lovely how the tiny house just extends onto this deck too.
I think just because you're living in a tiny house doesn't mean you need to be limited. This outdoor area is really quite an extended living space, which is the same size as the tiny house.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a bit of a story to the actual timber. I actually milled this timber. This was from a tree the seeds were planted after World War II. The Anzacs planted the seed.
Wow.
And this particular pine died. And I milled it up, and it's just the most amazing timber. And the white ants don't touch it, apparently.
Just gorgeous. And what you've done with the container doors on the end there is seriously cool.
Yes, it's all recycled, all reclaimed timber, and they're all the offcuts of different
your
jobs.
work.
Yeah. So,
it's like a mosaic of door, you've got.
I don't like throwing anything away, Bryce.
Fair enough too. Not when you can make beautiful stuff like that with it.
That's right.
Yeah, and the metalwork is so cool as well.
That's right. So I actually cut the old steel container door off and left the hinges because the container hinges are so strong. I thought I'll just utilise those hinges and take the hardware and just bolt it back onto a timber door.
I love what you've done with the eaves here as well, because it really helps to, again, sort of step it away from that box-like container look and make it more house-like.
That's right. And, coming from a building background, I knew the importance of having eaves. And a lot of tiny houses don't because they're on trailers and they can't have them. But in this case, you can transport it with eaves because it's going on a truck and you may have an escort, but you're only transporting it once. But it just stops that sun hitting the side of the windows, protects it from the weather right up the top there, which I think is really important. And I've done a feature of oak across the eaves, so it just, again, gives it a bit of an extra touch.
Beautiful. And the glazing around the top also really adds a lot to the house.
It does. Just having lots of light and just having airflow, it gives you a feeling of space and, again, just makes it a lot more livable.
And all of the attention to detail is just really nice, like even the beveled glass here in the door.
Yeah, it's little things like that, especially sitting from the inside looking out, it reflects light and so it just gives it a little bit of a touch.
Bit more character,
More character, correct.
Definitely. Well, the house just looks brilliant from the outside. It's still pretty hard to believe there's a shipping container under all of this. Can we have a look inside and see what's going on?
Absolutely.
Great, after
Sure.
you.
Thanks.
Oh, this is absolutely brilliant. Standing in here, you would never know this is a shipping container.
No, absolutely not. And I guess with the extra height and all the glass, it feels really quite spacious and quite airy.
Right.
And especially with the increased ceiling height, it just adds this complete sense of space. The panoramic windows gives you that beautiful outlook towards the sky.
It does feel quite luxurious in here and spacious.
It just doesn't feel like a tiny house because you've got this space. It actually feels really spacious.
And what you've done in here with all of this woodwork is just so beautifully artistic.
It is, and I guess that's sort of my passion, is to create unique pieces of furniture and timberwork. So I think there's not enough balance between the white walls and cabinets and just a few sort of timber features which just sort of make it pop.
Especially elements like the banister you've created there are just so beautifully artistic.
Yeah. So that actually was something that I was looking for quite some time, trying to find the right shape. And funny enough, it actually fell from a tree not far from here. And the tree had been dead, so it was well seasoned and it hasn't moved. But it was just the right shape to fit
I
the
remember
staircase.
we brought the piece of wood in
did.
and put it up there just to check that it'd be okay. And then
Yeah.
he moulded it and yeah.
And it's a very unique and extremely compact stair design that you've created here.
Yeah, so this is actually Cathy's idea.
Yeah.
I was thinking of something a bit simpler like a ladder, but also knowing the challenges of actually climbing up a ladder. And Cathy was all about storage, so it's like we were trying to think, how do we get a staircase with a footprint that fits in this size? And I guess that's the beauty about tiny houses. You can think outside the box and create anything you like, and this is what we came up with.
I really like what you've done with the shelving up here too. And of course, one of the benefits of building in a shipping container is you don't have to be as concerned with weight, so you've been able to use this really nice chunky timber.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I do like hardwoods, and this is a New Guinea rosewood, and it is quite heavy. So that is, you're right, the beauty about shipping containers. You can just go all out with solid materials.
I especially like what you've done with the shelving here as well, and adding that curve is a really nice feature because especially in a space like a tiny house or a shipping container, there's a lot of straight walls, a lot of right angles, and so seeing some curvature in there is really nice.
It is, and when I was building it as I went. So I actually made this wall with a lot more depth to it that goes into the bathroom, just to create that sort of depth and as a feature.
Giving
sort
a bit of
look.
organic feel.
Yeah.
And again on that timber theme, this floor is beautiful.
Yeah, so this is actually a reclaimed timber, and it was really well seasoned. So there's like 300 wide boards, some 200s. So we mix and match them, and you can feel how solid it is. And they've all been drilled, screwed, and plugged with a wooden plug. So it's, again, just that little bit of extra touch to give you that feel of quality.
And then up here we've got your sleeping loft.
Correct, that's right, yeah. So it's not quite a full-size double. In hindsight, I probably would have made it a little bit wider, but it's actually...
It's sufficient.
It's sufficient. Because of all the light that comes in, it's actually a really quite comfortable space.
It definitely looks very cozy up there.
It is very cozy. It's great for winter.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then again, having those windows out there, the panoramic vista really helps to make the space feel a lot more open.
Yeah, so I never sleep in the mornings. By the time the sun's come up, I'm getting a suntan, so I'm up early.
And then we've got your couch here as well.
Yeah, so it's just a fairly small leather couch, but it's got a nice view to the outside, and again, lots of light, so it's sufficient.
Beautiful artwork up there as well, and that's actually yours, isn't it, Cathy?
It is. It's a little bit wacky, a little bit surrealist. Got aspects of Sydney Harbour and the Opera House and waves and yeah.
I like it a lot, and it just adds a lot of colour and vibrance to the space.
Absolutely.
And the lights that you've created up there are very cool too.
They are. There's a bit of a story to those. They're actually cedar masts from a 100-year-old boat.
Wow.
And so I actually took that mast and just routed in some LED lighting and yeah.
Beautiful. And this kitchen design is fantastic. This bench top is absolutely magnificent.
It is actually, Bryce, and you know, it's quite a unique and rare piece of Australian ironbark with bird's eye in it. And so I originally really wanted to make a real feature of the kitchen, and that flows out to the outside. And I've actually routed in grooves for the drainage on it, and it's all quite organic, really.
It looks like a sun.
It really does. It's just such a beautiful feature. And then you've got the big gas strut window there as well.
Yeah, so it makes a real feature of the kitchen, having that window that opens up and be able to serve out of it and entertain.
Definitely.
Yeah, it brings the outside in. It's lovely.
It does.
And this looks like a very functional kitchen. You've got a lot of storage up here.
Yeah, so again, originally being a pastry cook, I like to cook things. I like lots of different, condiments, and so having that storage for me was quite important. I put a little bit of thought into, how do you make a real functioning kitchen in a small space?
And you've got the 4-burner cooker in the corner.
Yeah, so again, having plenty of cooking facilities and having 4 burners, if you're doing a few sauces and things, you can't have too many burners really when it comes to cooking.
But I don't see an oven in here.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Bryce. So I actually don't like all the oven smells inside tiny houses. So I cook outside on a barbecue. So it's a closed-in barbecue which cooks roasts and other things. So
brilliant. And working around those doors in the kitchen as well has contributed to quite an unusual shape.
It has, yeah. So being a shipping container, we've had to keep the structure of the corners of the steel shipping container. So it's really been quite a intricate, custom sort of build.
Bit of a game of Tetris.
It is definitely, yeah.
You've got beautiful tiles in the kitchen as well, and they really complement that timber.
They actually came from, we renovated a house in Sydney and just some leftovers. They look really beautiful and we've used them in the bathroom too, so yeah.
And speaking of the bathroom, I'm guessing it's behind that door right there.
You guessed correctly.
Can we take a look?
Sure.
Oh, this is so cool. Again, the timber work in here really stands out.
Yeah, that's right. And again, having a bathroom which is, really functional as well as, looking beautiful, I think was important.
And this vanity here is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a bit of a work of art, and it's got, different elements like the stone, and it's got inlaid driftwood.
And this driftwood came from a beach.
Yeah.
It's actually wormholes in
Wow.
there. Yeah, so it's beautiful.
And what you've done with the copper shower is very cool.
I was experimenting with this new oxy torch burner that I had, and it takes a lot of heat to melt all those solder joints. But yeah, I just wanted to keep that kind of steampunk kind of look with the old pipes.
It actually came out really well. I was a bit skeptical when you talked about this concept. I was like, not sure this is going to work, but it looks amazing.
It does.
Yeah.
Copper's one of those things that it looks beautiful when it first goes in, and then over time, as it develops that green patina, it only gets better.
It does, yeah. It's sort of quite timeless.
And do you get good water pressure off that as well?
Yeah, we get really good pressure. So we've got a 12-volt pump, and but it comes through pretty high pressure.
Excellent. What do you do for services here, like power and water?
So we do have a solar panel on the roof, which is running 12-volt to a battery, and we're running all our lighting off 12-volt, as well as a backup 240-volt for the fridge and also the mains water tank. So
For water, we actually collect off the workshop. We've got a 7,000 litre tank.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
You've got the composting toilet in here too?
yeah, that's been one of the best things that we've actually come across is composting toilets. I think there's a lot of stigma around toilets, but this has been no smell whatsoever to it, and so I've been really impressed with it.
You've got a lovely big mirror in here too.
Yeah, the mirror's great. I wanted a big mirror, and I just think it's great for reflecting light, and it just feels bigger having that mirrored space.
Absolutely. And so how long have you been living in the home now?
It's about 2.5 years.
Fantastic. And how are you finding life in the shipping container?
Well, I'd say it's surprisingly good actually, because even though it's a small space, it doesn't have to be a boring space. So we've really gone all out with creativity. So
Yeah.
it feels really quite luxurious. To live amongst our art and our creativity is quite a unique experience. And it's one that people have to experience themselves. You can't tell them, you can't explain it. There's a great feeling of satisfaction.
There really is. Everything
we've
in this
built.
house is us.
Yeah.
And that it's amazing. The minimalist approach to life makes it just life's a lot more simple, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it gives you an opportunity to actually
Yeah.
focus on quality rather than
Yeah.
quantity. So it is minimalistic. We don't spend huge amounts of time inside. We live an outdoor life, but we get to stay in a beautiful place when we come home.
And can we talk about the cost that was involved in building this home?
Yeah, so the container I already had, and I think I actually paid $50 for it because the roof was rusting out, so
Right.
it wasn't suitable as a shipping container anymore. So I just took what I had, and I remember a big believer in taking what you've got and use what you've got. So a lot of the materials, have all been recycled, reclaimed. I've spent some money on certain fittings and hardware and things like that, but all in all, it's actually amazing what you can actually do if you upcycle and recycle things.
But what would the ballpark price be?
It cost me about $20,000.
$20,000 for this kind of home is absolutely ridiculous. And of course though, that is testament to you doing all of the work yourself, being very thrifty and clever with the materials that went into its construction. But wow, what a great result. Well, you really have created such a marvelous home for yourself. I'm such a fan of all of the beautiful woodwork and creativity that you've both poured into this space. Thank you so much for sharing it with me.
Thank you, Bryce, for coming.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure having you here, Bryce.
Pleasure's all mine. Paul and Cathy have done such a wonderful job with the build of this home. This is a truly handcrafted house, a place that they have filled with their art and creativity and clever use of reclaimed materials. They really have built themselves into the walls of this home, and the result is just beautiful.